Today's webinar is entitled Cowork, the Future of Business, and I've got question marks and exclamation points after that, so that's your clue. Our presenter is Jim Goff, a member of the MBA class of 1981. Jim is President and Chief Executive Officer of Landsman Development Corporation in Rochester, developers of the Carlson Cowork facility. He joined Landsman Development in 2001 after 23 years with Bausch & Lomb in a wide variety of positions, including Vice President of Administrative Services and Vice President of Vision Accessories. At B&L, Jim was responsible for managing the design and construction of the World Headquarters building in downtown Rochester. He received a BA in Biology from Franciscan University in Steubenville, Ohio, an MS in Safety Management from West Virginia University, and, as mentioned, an MBA from RIT's Saunders College of Business. He's currently a member of the President's Roundtable at RIT and the Dean's Advisory Committee for the Saunders College of Business, as well as serving on the Chairman's Council of the Charles Finney School and the Board of the Greater Rochester Housing Partnership. He formerly served as Executive Vice President of the National Safety Management Society and as a United Way volunteer for small business accounts. Jim also served as a member of the boards of the Rochester Downtown Development Corporation, including a chairmanship of the Central Business District Development Committee, Family Services of Rochester, the Family Resource Center, and Rochester Economic Development Corporation. Jim is a licensed real estate broker in the state of New York. Joining Jim today are two of Carlson Cowork's members, Chris Cooley and Matt Sweeney. Chris is founder of Cooley Creative LLC, a design, branding, and rebranding company, and a social entrepreneur. Chris, can you say hello so people will recognize your voice?
Yeah, hi, I'm here. Thanks for having us.
And Matt is chief engineer at 4B Systems, which produces products for cybersecurity risk intelligence. Matt, can you say hello?
Hey everyone, this is Matt.
Jim and guests, take it away.
Good afternoon. We're going to have a little bit of fun today. We're going to talk about different ways of doing business. Rochester has a really rich history. Rochester was entrepreneurial before the word was ever invented. Whenever I get into projects like this, I always like to go back and try to review a little bit of history and find out where we came from so that we can either repeat the good stuff and not repeat the bad stuff. But I think a look back is always entertaining, if not totally educational. So if we go back into Rochester back in the day, we go back to the Flower City, F-L-O-U-R city. That goes back into the 1817 to the 1840 kind of time frame. Doesn't look like that today, but it looked like that back in the day. Back then, Rochester was rich in agriculture. It had a lot of water power. It had 20 mills that were producing 500,000 barrels of grain and flour a day, and it used the Erie Canal as the primary mode of transportation. A very long ditch dug by people that I just can't imagine how they did that back then, but that's what happened. We then go into the Flower City as we got rid of the Erie Canal and started with the railroads, which took the Erie Canal out of commission. The Flower City, F-L-O-W-E-R, started in the 1840s, and that period of time went up into the 1860s. Some of the interesting things that happened then was the University of Rochester started in 1850. Harris Seed came into play, and Rochester became known, again, for the rich agriculture, but in seed production. And these little entrepreneurial type businesses started to form, and Rochester started to get its real DNA of entrepreneurial type companies. The industrial phase of Rochester started in the 1860s all the way up to the 1945s. This is when Rochester experienced the development, the innovations that were just remarkably innovative from Kodak's and Bausch & Lomb's and Sibley's and R.T. French. R.T. French in 1904 sent their mustard to the St. Louis World's Fair, where it was married to a new invention called the hot dog, and the rest is sort of history. The barge canal stopped doing work back in the 1860s. Gleason Works came into be, and RIT actually in 1885 was not RIT then, but it was the Mechanics Institute, formed by a bunch of business guys in town to try to teach people the skills that were necessary for these evolving businesses. And with Kodak and Bausch & Lomb and this Mechanics Institute, we started seeing the very beginnings of the optical business in Rochester, New York. Entrepreneurial, innovative, really pretty remarkable. And it really set the path for what's happening today. Going into the post-war era, the 1945s to the 2000s, we continue to see innovations. NTID came into be. Actually, RIT started in this time period. It changed its name in 1944, and don't hold me to it, but I think it had its first degrees in the early 1950s that were degrees from RIT for 4 years of education. Rochester Products started then. Xerox came into be, used to be the Haloid company. Paychex came and started its roots here. Again, another very small entrepreneurial company that Tom Golisano started with a whole bunch of credit cards, a dream, and an amazing work ethic. And it's grown into the international juggernaut and how to do paychecks and human resource things that we know today from Paychex. Pretty terrific stuff. The new millennium brought in a fast ferry, which was a very interesting project that I actually had something to do with back in the day. It came and went, but it was entrepreneurial, and it was taking a risk and taking a chance to try to push Rochester in different directions. Paytech came on board. We became a region, again, going back to agriculture, that yogurt is now a capital of yogurt is in the Rochester area. And the most recent vintage of businesses is related to photonics. And I think we could trace that back to the Kodak and Bausch & Lomb days with their photo and optics and the RIT and the U of R inventions that they have in their research. And photonics is now going to be housed in Rochester, New York. For the world, it is going to have the biggest, best, and most innovative product development and research on the planet. It's going to be in this town. So what do we do in a town like this? We have a bunch of old buildings. We have a very rich history of old manufacturing that house thousands of people at the same time, building products, putting widgets together. And these businesses have now moved on. Kodak is not anything like Kodak was before. It's gone from 65,000 people to 2,500 people. And we have to repurpose the buildings and the people and the ingenuity and the intellectual property. And we're finding that it's going into smaller businesses. We have people that have left the Kodaks of the world and are going into the workforces something different, using their innovation and expertise. And so we had a building in particular that we wanted to repurpose. It's an 800,000 square foot building. It had a lot of vacant space, and so we decided we would try a co-working thing. So like I do in many things that I do, I go back into the history of co-working. And there's a lot of disparity in the internet about who started it when, and I'm not trying to give you a perfectly accurate historical perspective, but this is the general gist of what I'd like you to get out of this. Co-working really started back in the mid-90s. The first place I could find was this hackerspace in Berlin in 1995. In 1999, Brian DeKoven coined the term co-working, and there's controversy about that as well, so don't hold me to the technical accuracy, but he believed co-working was a term that was important and started using it in 1999. Also in 1999, 42 West 24th opened in New York City. 42 West 24th was interesting. It was a marketing company that actually rented more space than they could use, and so they opened up to their friends. If you're working out of your house, come on down here and play in our space. Give us a few dollars, we can pay for our space a little bit better, and we can tap your brain and you can tap ours and we can start working together. It was a pretty important little discovery that they made in New York City in 1999. Denmark opened the first coined co-working space that I could find in 2002, when co-working started to take on sort of a life of its own. And then the West Coast got involved in 2005 with the Spiral Muse. They claimed they were the first. I'm not sure who's correct, but it doesn't really matter. They wanted to really try to get the coolness of Google, but they didn't have to work there. and they wanted to have their own space, their smallness, their intimate little community with like-minded people doing very diverse work, and so they could get the coolness of Google without the bigness of Google. So in 2005, that started. That evolved into the Hat Factory in San Francisco. That became a cafe, hangout, entrepreneur get-together place. It eventually ended up being collaborative and co-working in nature, although it wasn't called co-working at the time. It was just the Hat Factory. In 2007, Google, like it always does, decides to put their brand on something, and they placed the Cowork term in its searchable database. Once it's in Google, then it's true. And so Google sort of really coined the term, or took the coined term and made it popular, and now you can go on Google and search for co-working. In 2007, Alex Hillman forms Indie Hall in Philly. This was a very interesting cultural change. He said, and these are quotes, "The key is not cool furniture. It's not great artwork. It's not anything that we know in business. It's not fancy lighting. This is a bootstrapped place that has the walls painted, the furniture brought in and assembled, and the artwork donated all by the members." This is a very interesting concept. As I was looking at starting our own, this is one of the places I looked. The attraction in the Indie Hall was trust, collaborative spirit of the members. When the members trust each other, they talk freely, they open themselves up, and all kinds of really amazing possibilities happen. And that's what we wanted to have in Rochester, New York. In 2009, the New York Times article was the first article that I could find in a major publication on co-working. New York Times, it's getting mainstream by 2009, not too long ago. In 2010, Kickstarter formed their first funded co-work space. Pretty interesting. Kickstarter's done some amazing stuff. And then on the next slide, we have the conference in 2015 that was held in Berkeley, California, and this is called the Global Co-working Unconference Conference. It's the second time this was held. The first one was in Europe. The second one was last year in Berkeley. And this is, again, gaining a life of its own. The Global Co-working Unconference Conference. I just love that name. It's like watching the Stanford Band. It is so cool. So what's really happening in co-working around the country? Palo Alto, with all their university influences, started their incubator spaces, accelerator spaces, co-working spaces, call them what you want. The Route 128 corridor with the MITs and the Harvards and the Browns, they started spinning off things out of their educational domains into businesses. And then there was a little guy that started up in Boulder, Colorado. Now, the Palo Alto guys were very horizontally oriented. They shared information. They were one for all for one, and they grew in a very robust, dramatic fashion. The guys in 128 corridor in Boston, they were much more vertical. They were a little more paranoid about who's going to own the intellectual property. They had walls instead of open spaces. They were in workstations and offices instead of desks and tables. They really were concerned about their business, doing their thing, and it was more of a siloed type of organization. It did not grow as robustly. It grew. It's been wildly successful, but not as broad as the Palo Alto guys. Then the guys came along from Boulder, Colorado, and they did sort of a hybrid. They started doing lunch and learns and tech seminars and one-minute presentations by their members with very strict time constraints, and they would drag people off the stage. You had 1 minute to give your elevator speech. They also joined up with Techstar. They started to have a community that had breakfasts and lunch and dinners, and they played together and worked together. And that really was appealing when we started looking at Rochester, New York. And so it was really the Boulder model that we were interested in. So that brings us up to date on the historical perspective. And now we're going to look at, what is co-working at Carlson Park in Rochester, New York.
Jim, did you want to, we have a poll question up
Sure.
so that you know a little bit about our actual audience here. We were curious about whether or not people are working co-working spaces? Are you all still working in large corporate offices, cubicle farms? Are you working in private offices? Are you working at a Starbucks? If our audience members can give us an idea there of where you're working, then Jim will speak a little bit more about how Carlson actually got started.
Okay. While you're doing your homework, I love being at RIT. I can give people homework. This is cool. I'm trying to get some of my grades changed as well while I'm here. They weren't all that good sometimes. The history of our building. We have an 800,000 square foot building. You can see a little piece of it in that slide. It was started by Stromberg back in the day, back in the turn of the century, and they built radios, TVs, and electronic parts and pieces. It was designed and built over a period of time, and it really housed one company with literally thousands of workers. Over the years, they went away. Their business went to other places and other companies. Kodak became a major tenant. They brought in some camera manufacturing. If you remember the Kodak disposable cameras, this was a place where we did a significant, in fact, I think all of the disposable camera, you tear them apart, take the film out, send the film off to where it was going, and then we recycled the parts and pieces in this building. Xerox had offices here. Bausch & Lomb had a stint here. I actually rented the space back in the day for our exhibits department that can build exhibits for around the world. Harris Communications Company, they build military radios. They occupied 400,000 square feet just a couple of years ago. They've since bought their own building, which was a great move for them. Bad move for me. It emptied our building. And Rochester General Hospital had 300,000 square feet of office space. They too bought a building, emptied my building. It wasn't a good thing. So I'm left with a building and a need as a real estate person to fill it. And we started thinking about co-working. Small businesses, small people, let's try it. ColorCentrics was our first real co-working type company long before co-working was fashionable. ColorCentrics has an RIT roots to it. ColorCentrics was started in an RIT dorm room. It then moved into the incubator space on campus. And they grew, and they were successful, and it was a printing-based company. They moved into Carlson Park with 5,000 square feet. To make a long story short, they are still a tenant at Carlson Park in 140,000 square feet. And I think that's just a pretty cool success story for a Rochester startup company with RIT roots. In April of last year, Carlson Cowork was actually born. We started with 3 companies, and those companies are with us today. And those are the companies that started what we didn't know was going to happen, but it started the culture of what this is. And I think in business, whether it's a huge business or a small business, culture is what really drives it. And CEOs, in my opinion, have a strong responsibility to manage the cultures of companies. This space, its culture has grown and morphed and changed, but the culture is what's driving the success of Carlson Cowork. And that culture started with a mission statement. Carlson Cowork, we believe, was a place for businesses to grow. That's what we had. What's really evolved is the next thing, the methodology of how Carlson grows. It became a community. It was based on collaboration, and its end result is capitalism in its purest form. These young companies are here to make money, and it's amazing what they're doing and how they do it. The number one question I ask as I go around and visit this place every couple of days, every week, is, did you make any money today? If you did, you can stay. If not, you got to go. These folks in these small companies are members. They're not tenants. We don't sign leases. We sign membership agreements. They're 1 month in duration. They can automatically renew. But what we didn't want to do is we didn't want to burden young startup companies with long-term leases. It's really a significant problem for startups when they get burdened down with real estate costs, with leases, and with constraints of space. We have no constraints of how far or how fast you can grow and still at the same location, and we have no constraints about anything beyond a month for the companies. What are some of the features of Carlson? And the features really drive people to the sites. People are always looking for what's there, how do we do it. And so the next slide talks about this space is 16,000 square feet. It's open, as you can see in the slide. It is forcing collaboration. We have little pods of 4 you can see off in the left-hand corner, and then we have tables that are sort of meeting tables. That particular table, remember we talked about Philadelphia, it's not about the coolness and it's not about the cool furniture and the cool lighting. That table in front of you with the white surface is really a piece of drywall, and we all get to draw on it and put notes on it and draw funny faces, and that's sort of fun. This is a fun place to be, but you don't see the tall walls. You see open space and communicative type space. It has really high-speed internet. I think it's 10 times faster than anything we can get with Time Warner, and we have green lights in the space. That comes. Flip through maybe some of these slides. There's 2 more slides of what this space looks like. That's part of the cafe. That was a brick wall that was painted white. We had it sandblasted, and it's a really nice hardwood floor that we didn't know was under several layers of carpeting. Pretty cool space. It's in a very safe neighborhood. We have 2,000 free parking spaces. In Rochester, New York, free parking spaces are a big deal. Its open work plan has private conference rooms. It has a telephone room that you can go in that's soundproof. And we have couches and chairs for informal meetings. How much does all this cost? It's $145 for a workstation, a place where you can put your computer, put your printer, and keep it there. It's secured. Everything is key fobbed. And if you want a private office, we have some available for $350 a month. So $150 a month, you can begin co-working at Carlson. I think the possibilities for your growth are limitless. If you want to grow to be 100,000 square feet, 200,000 square feet, you can come and do that in our place. The diversity of membership is pretty amazing, and I'm going to let Chris and Matt talk about that, and I'm going to get off my soapbox. But 20% of our members have RIT roots, which I think is pretty cool. So, Chris, why don't I open up to you, and you can talk about the next few things.
You're doing so well, Jim. It's like that history lesson. It's amazing. I think I actually want to step back for a second to the culture that you talked about, because I think back to, as one of the co-founders of the space, the first meeting that we had, which was, what is co-working, how's it going to fly, all those things. And my experience, I've been in business for going on 9 years now, and for 7 of those years I've been in co-working type of spaces. One was technically a co-work, another was an incubator for a few years. So I've seen all of the different approaches to co-working. And when we sat down, I think the first thing I said is, if we're not going to do this with the community aspect in place right off the bat, then it's just going to kind of fall apart like the other ones. And, it was a great partnership and marriage. Jim, you're like, here's the keys, here's the Ferrari, you build the steering wheel, which I think I've always come back to, because it really is about you letting the community drive what happens next. And that flexibility is ultimately what allows this place and the people in it to grow. It's something that I did not see at any of the other co-working spaces, and it's hard to bottle that up, especially when the model for other co-working spaces is, you lease a space, and what's your number one concern? Keep the lights on, right? So the cost of being a member there goes up. The focus is now not on you as what your needs are, but, hey, how can you give me enough money to make this place survive? And the unique opportunity that came up with Carlson is that, the building is, there's an opportunity for that space to be cheaper, to be driven, because of Jim's ownership of the space also, and his ability to say, I don't have all the answers, and that's why we have this great team of people. Now we have 50-plus companies there, and that same mentality carries across through all of them. So I wanted to come back to that a little bit. And, the history of Rochester thing that you mentioned too, I moved here in 2011-ish, and it was right at the time where we were seeing the effects of Kodak and Xerox being gone. I joined a bunch of different groups around town and was noticing that there were people who have been in really specialized jobs and had specialized knowledge that were starting companies because they had made roots here. So they're still here, but those people, because they had been working in such a specialized environment, for 30 plus years sometimes, they weren't really savvy in how to be an entrepreneur. So they were creating these groups that met at coffee shops just to have a place to bounce ideas off of. Well, that's another, place that this came from. So Rochester is alive with that sort of spirit, and so we're catering to that now. I got away from the actual members here, but I felt like that was really critical and crucial to know how we started this whole thing. Yeah, I mean, the members, it's like-minded people, but out of the 50 different companies, I mean, Matt, how many would you say are in the same industry? Like,
It's very diverse. I mean, I guess, personal story starting in there, I started out of a little bit of background, worked in an office space for 8 to 9 years, worked out of my home office for 2 to 3 years, and that was after moving from Syracuse to Rochester. So I had about 0 networking contacts in the Rochester area, and I was looking to get out, and I was in the mode of, I'm in the startup mode, looking to start a new business, and I have no contact with the outside world. And so I was searching for that, and I searched around, like you said, a couple places, and then arrived at Carlson and was immediately blown away at how different it was from that perspective, specifically with the diversity. So I was kind of in early stages exploratory mode in that startup mentality, and so I was able to talk to all these different people who were artists, videographers, photographers, people in graphic design, people in website design, people in advertising. So there's a broad set of people who had different life experience there and had several, not just starting out, but multiple years of experience. So you had that opportunity to collaborate with them, learn from them, share what you knew. And so the opportunity to share in that space was pretty unique. And so I jumped at the opportunity. I think it was just the end of April 2015.
Yeah.
So that diversity was really important in that whole process of being able to grow who I was as a person and as a business. And comparing that to other cultures that I've seen, there's other incubator communities, like I've seen a startup, like Tech Garden in Syracuse, where there's definitely good activity going on there, but it's not the same culture and community.
Yeah.
And other co-working spaces in Baltimore that are, again, about providing a great space, very cool, very interesting, but not the same focus on who are we as a culture, what is that drives who we are as a community of co-working people. And even, us working together, Chris, that we had that connection there early, and so that helped drive our business going forward as far as from marketing, branding, and other perspectives. So we've exchanged money. There's been actual co-working and co-business opportunities.
Which makes Jim happy and means we can stay.
Yeah.
To make money. Yeah.
We have a question coming in based on your experience and your explanation a little bit about what's going on at Carlson. Do you see that co-working really is best suited for creative entrepreneurs like writers and designers and advertising people, or is there just something about it that those people are drawn to more than others?
I can speak to that. What I've seen at Carlson is that it's not catered to a specific industry, and that's really, really unique. I mean, even when you talk about what's going in downtown the facilities building, that's, high tech, photonics, that sort of thing. We have not-for-profit organizations, financial advisors. We have people who are doing sales for large corporations but have offices at home. They want that interaction with people and also separation of space. But yeah, I don't think that's one of the cool things that happened at Carlson is it's about community. So when you walk in the door, no matter what your business is, you can connect with people from that root level rather than, I'm just around a bunch of other photographers or whatever that might be. I mean, you see that too, right? That's just...
Yeah, I think at Carlson what we're doing is typically the real estate guys are going to rent space. This is a situation where we're not really renting space. We are renting a culture. We are renting an opportunity for businesses to grow. And 80% of the businesses that are here have actually, if you talk to them all, would say they have absolutely grown because of the interactivity with the other players. 100% say they've grown just because they're there and they're out of their house or out of Starbucks, but 80% have actually exchanged money with each other formed partnerships with each other, and met people that they would have never, ever had the opportunity to meet. That's really the culture, and I can't emphasize enough, the culture of this particular co-working spaces is different. We are not a WeWorks. WeWorks is worth $10 billion. Hats off to them. They have a great concept. But they are renting a building or floors of a building and then renting space, and people rent that space. They come in, do their work, and go home. I've been to several of them. There is no co-working that I've ever seen happen there. We're not that model. We're not Regis, where there's a copier and a receptionist, and you're renting an office or a workstation, and you go in and you have the service. We're not doing that. We don't have those features. We're renting a culture. We're renting an opportunity for you to grow your company, and I think that's pretty special.
Well, the picture on the left is great. I mean, we moved the furniture that's in there from the basement when we first started this place. We painted the walls, so that speaks to what this whole place is really built on, right? I love that Nick, who's a member over here in the chat group, like chiming in and saying it's not just for certain jobs, And I believe in that too. Creativity, somebody can say I'm not creative, but maybe you're not artistic, but I would almost guarantee that everybody's creative in some way or another.
Yeah, and for the other people on the phone, what you're not seeing in our exchange with the chat box comments is that we do have several people actually from Carlson Cowork who are joining the webinar.
Yeah.
Yeah. From the Carlson Cowork area, and Nick, who is one of the members, commented on that last question and said, creativity is not reserved for certain jobs. You can be a creative salesperson or a creative CFO. So, yep, good point, Nick.
Nick is one of those people that came as himself. He actually hired an RIT intern, and Nick is now growing his company, and he started to sniff around the building to see if there's a place for him to take some new employees that he may be looking at in the future. So it's all about growth, and it's all about capitalism for us.
It's about I always come back to that community too. I mean, I was just thinking about, Matt, you were talking about your home office, and I see the statistics on there that the majority of people who are listening here are actually working from home offices. There's one person that's other. I would love to know what that is.
Starbucks.
Yeah, right. But you said last week, Matt, that Carlson feels like home base, right? Like coming home to, and I don't know if you, could speak for that. I mean, I started at a home office too.
Well, yeah, as far as, what is home, home base being, I actually have to travel sometimes because our corporate headquarters is in another city, and so having a place that is my kind of home office base where I know people, I can collaborate with people, I can, like you said, with the diversity there's, interactions I've had with folks purely on a personal level, like taking my kids in and seeing, what's going on in the not-for-profit educational world, but also working with folks from a, executive coaching and like, what's the next phase for me in my personal growth and my business growth? How do I take what I'm doing and push it further? So there's none of that at my home office. I mean, it's locking the doors and make sure my kids don't barge in. So I think there's a big difference in mentality there that you get when you get to go outside and get to cleanly separate what you're doing at home versus what's going on at work too.
Yeah.
And it really is becoming a community. We do more than just provide this place to grow. We hosted a TED Talk where we had 75 people come in for a TED Talk. We do lunch and learns. Every couple of weeks we do a Wednesday afternoon where we bring in a speaker, and the members get to come in and pick the speaker's brain about whatever topic it is. Last Friday night we did a potluck dinner. Everybody brought something, passed it around. We had 30 people, and I embarrassed myself with no creativity trying to do Pictionary. It was a laugh for a lot of people, embarrassing for me, but we got through it. They've had movie nights, and we have some feature filmmakers. We have a horror film feature filmmaker that's about to start shooting a full-length horror movie in this building with actors, big-time horror film actors with big resumes from California. So that's happening. It's a very diverse group. That's a picture of the monster that's being built on the right there for this. That will be blown up, and it'll be 10 feet tall, and it's going to be the main featured character in this horror film. We also have, the diversity they talked about of the members. We have a company that's into sustainability, again, with our IT roots. They went to Arizona State and RIT engineering schools, and they've developed 9 businesses with their long-term concept of those businesses actually do manufacturing of the products in our building, and they're working with children from 3rd grade to 6th grade, and they're going to take those kids all the way through graduation from high school, and their intent is to get them to learn how to run these businesses, potentially own these businesses, or go off to college. Either way, they're happy. And they're going to teach kids about business starting day one. The first thing they're going to do is these kids are building urban gardening boxes so that you can have a garden in your backyard above ground and control the soil and the pH and the temperature. There's a sensor that they're developing. The kids can program it, put it in the soil, and you can manage your garden from afar on your cell phone. They're going to build those things in Carlson, and the kids are going to sell them. The kids are going to buy seeds. They don't have any money, so we're going to loan them the $3 for the seeds. They're going to understand interest rates. They're going to understand loans and payback loans and how important it is. That's just one of the members of Carlson. You talk about diversity. It's amazingly diverse.
So just to get this clear in our minds, so we've talked about the designers, we've talked about the sales, we've talked about the people who are working out of Carlson when their home office is in another location. Are you saying that there's light manufacturing capability in there?
That's their intent.
Yeah.
I talk about it as being on the other side of the wall.
Okay.
If you go through the wall that you can see on your right-hand side in the back, that goes out into an 800,000 square foot building that has limitless possibilities for manufacturing. So yeah, we would like to keep those businesses, and he would hire a contracting company to come in and build these products in that space, and these kids would get to come in summers as they get older, temporary workers, internships, whatever it is, but have the kids involved in the manufacturing of these 9 products that came out of Arizona State and RIT. It's a pretty interesting concept, and I hope he pulls it off.
There's another unique collaboration that if you go back to the slide, I was looking at the monster there. So how about this one? A family-owned financial company, they're down in the office next to you, comes into Carlson around the same time you did, I think, Matt. One of the sons is working there, just doesn't, I don't know if it was his life dream, right? Let's put it that way. Finds out that these guys are making a movie. The financial organization funds some of the movie, and this brother starts working as a sculptor on the project, right? So how is that going to come about, that relationship, without this type of community?
And actually, in this picture on the right-hand side, that's the mayor of Rochester overlooking the sculpting of the monster. She loves what's happening there. It truly is innovation at its finest, we believe.
It's a great photo.
Is that Jim doing Pictionary there?
Oh,
that was Jim, actually. Yeah, he can only reach up to half the board.
There's a step stool there.
That board's 14 feet high. I just want you to know that. If you can't have fun, you're not doing it right.
Yeah. Well, if you talk about the activities, the next slide, one of the things that we do bi-weekly is have a members meeting on Friday morning so that people are up to date on what's happening outside of the building and, you could talk about behind the walls. So behind the walls, and how are we going to move forward as a group? It's a constant life of its own, is a quote that you said earlier in this conversation, Jim. When you were talking about the unconference and some of those other co-working spaces, it's not trying to push or manipulate it in a way. It's just letting it organically come to life, and it's a beautiful thing, really. I mean, talk about the potluck dinners. I don't know if the next slide has some images of that. Yeah, so here's some lunch and learns. We had the last series of lunch and learns we did in the wintertime was all members, so members could talk at lunchtime for an hour about what they do and their specialty. This is one of our members talking about her specialty in Periscope, which is an app for live streaming. We were live streaming multiple phones, so it's like the cascading forever image, And then we have these potluck dinners that are it's for members and members' significant others, and we all get together and get to know each other a lot better. It's a bonding experience, and that's when we play Pictionary and make fun of Jim. So.
On the picture on the left, Aaron is in the back with a black RIT sweatshirt on. He wears an RIT shirt every day. He's an RIT alum. He's a 3D animator. And he has grown his business significantly since he's come here and partnered with people and is doing stuff now in Florida and in Rochester with one of his partners. And Nick, who's done such a good job of commenting, is sitting in the front with a red shirt on. Nick, thank you for your comments. You are terrific. I'm sitting here smiling. But that's really what Carlson Co-Work's about. And you go to the next slide. Again, 80% have actually exchanged dollars. 100% claim that they have grown since they've been here. And 51 companies are now actively involved in the space. It's pretty cool in 1 year.
That photo on the right is an image of a pizza party that we had when I think we had maybe like 30-ish members. There were so many new people coming in that people didn't know each other, so we just got together and everyone talked about what they did and made connections. And that's one of the ways that the business and the money exchange comes up. It's not, I was telling Matt on the ride over here, it's not like when somebody new comes in, the first thing they do is get swarmed and handed a bunch of business cards. We find out, who they are and where they're from and what makes them tick. And before any of that happens, those relationships grow into those financial exchanges, and it happens every day.
The management of this culture and the management of this group of people happens from the members. It doesn't happen from the real estate guys. And this thing has taken on a life of its own, and it's the members. It's the Chris's and the Matts and the Nicks and Aaron's that drive this all the time. And it's becoming a really cool place to be. I'm very, very proud of what's happening here.
So we can go to the next slide. We've got one other question that's come up because we've heard a lot of great things about co-working. What is the biggest challenge you find in co-working? And is it a same challenge that you see in other co-working experiences, or is it one that's unique to Carlson?
That's a great question. I would say that the biggest challenge is really making calculated growth happen, because there is such a unique environment and atmosphere that we've created. I couldn't imagine having one or two people making these decisions. But it's sometimes a challenge to get everybody's feedback and know that you're making the right call moving forward. There's space across the hall. People are asking for offices, and keeping the culture intact is probably one of the greatest challenges, but also one of the most fun aspects of what goes into co-working.
I was going to say, keeping that connectivity between people, like you had mentioned, the lunch times, the lunch and learn, the morning meetings, all those things really help. As things have grown really quickly, that's I think the big challenge.
Yeah.
How do you keep everybody connected in that way so that organic growth continues to happen?
Right. Yeah, the events was a big thing. How do we plug these pieces in place? And we've tried multiple different types of events and get-togethers. The lunch and learns were a great success, so that's one way to look at that. You going to say something?
I think that from what I can see, the members that get involved with the running of this and the management of it, they have to trade off the work that they have to do to build their own business and then the work that they've chosen to do, which is grow this community. Boulder, Colorado had that. Their management, really their internal member-driven management changed sometimes every month, sometimes weekly, and sometimes after 6 months, depending on the position of the leader at the time and where their own business is and how much time they can devote to the culture of the business that is Carlson Co-Work. So that's a challenge as well, and Chris has struggled with that at times. His business is growing faster than he thought, and he has to trade off some of the very active, proactive management that he's done at Carlson for his own business, which I think is a really good problem to have. Mm-hmm. The last slide, I really believe that we're a watering hole in the desert of new business development alternatives, where entrepreneurs can come to grow their business through community, collaboration, and ultimately capitalism. I think this really sums up what these young, very creative companies have come here for, and I think it's what they're getting out of it. So we'd be happy to answer questions.
Great. We have one in from Pete Beckery. Are there any plans to partner with RIT Imagine and the co-working world? And Pete is currently in Lancaster, PA, working out of the Candy Factory.
Pete, we have had everyone through here, from the provost to the deans to your Ryan Raffelli, who's head of all research here. They've all been through Carlson multiple times. They all think it could be a great place for when they kick their folks out of their incubator spaces. Incubator spaces are really nice. Kids come in there, they're driven by what they've learned in school. They go into these schools driven in incubator, and then they grow to 2, 3, 4 people. Then they need a place to grow to and really form their businesses. This could be a nice soft landing spot for businesses. One of the single biggest problem, if you read about the history of co-working, is real estate. It's not funding, it's not finding capital. If you have a great business and a great idea, the capital will find you. But the problem is when you start with one person and move to 5, you generally have to move. When you go to the place that will take you for 5, they want you to start signing 5-year leases, 1-year leases, whatever it is. You can't do that because you don't know. Boulder had this huge problem, so did Palo Alto in 128 corridor. Every time they grew by 5 or 6 or 8 or 10 people, they had to move. Terribly disruptive, terribly expensive, and you're always changing your address and unplugging and plugging in. At Carlson, you can come there and you can grow in place as big as you want to get. That is a very, very unique feature that we have that no one else has that I'm aware of.
So you're really not seeing a ceiling of the size of the company?
Not at all. And ColorCentrics is a great example. RIT dorm room, RIT incubator, Carlson at 5,000 feet. They're in 140, and they may be in 200 by the end of this year. 200,000 feet from a startup at RIT. That's what I envision these companies doing. Some bigger, some smaller, but all have that potential to stay in the building, stay in the same address, and grow.
And we have a comment from Nick, who we mentioned is one of the members of Carlson Cowork. He says, one of the challenges was gathering and sharing all the need-to-know items. And he says that you guys put together a new member guide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great comment. When you grow so quickly, I mean, we went from April of last year to, we're creeping up on April, so a year later, 55 plus companies, I think, or individual members. We grew at one point from 12, I think, Matt, right around the time when you joined, to over 30. So it was people don't know where to take the trash, and it's all bootstrapped, like Jim said. So where's the vacuum cleaner? Who's picking up? Those kind of things. That was a growing challenge. And I got to give a shout out to Kurt Sievendorf, who is CEO of Wear a Lot of Hats at Landsman, he says. And he is, for lack of a better term, the landlord, and he's there so often. I got to just say thanks to Kurt, because it wouldn't be able to operate this co-work space. It's not just the inmates that help. It's a love from his standpoint too, and Jim's as well. I mean, Jim comes to the meetings. It really is a group effort, and much appreciated. And also Kurt's wife, who helped design the cafe. I mean, these are amazing people that are coming together to make this happen, like not with, hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's people doing it. So.
Kurt has been remarkable. This has been his baby since the beginning. He has grown it. He is responsible for it, and he is the godfather of the co-working space at Carlson. The other thing that's happening, we're starting to get publicity, and we're doing this webinar, and we're in papers and chat rooms and all kinds of places. We're hosting on March 18th the Rock Growth Group. Now that has RIT connections as well. Richard Glazer's group is coming in for a 7:30 to 9 breakfast series where they're going to have entrepreneurs from around the general area, the greater Rochester area, come in and do 1 and 2 minute elevator speeches for their company. And the rule is you have to have an ask at the end. Here's my elevator pitch, and here's the kind of help that I need. We're going to have our co-working folks there. We're going to have another 100 people there that are from all over in entrepreneurial bents, and we're going to be there to help these 4, 5, 6 companies so that they can grow. And that's the kind of thing Carlson Co-work is about. It's about this community, and Richard Glazer's doing an amazing job with the entrepreneurs in this area. He talks about useful collisions, and we're going to have 100 people having useful collisions, and every day we have 50 companies doing useful collisions. And it's sort of cool. And that's Richard's word, not mine, but I think it really sums it up.
Yeah.
Other questions, comments? Just some closing thoughts from you guys. We have a video to show, right, that tells us a little bit more about Carlson. But Just from a closing thoughts perspective, what do you have for big plans? You mentioned the idea of going into light manufacturing and including that in part of there. Is there any other big sort of umbrella plan that you're looking at to attract particular industry?
We have the 16,000 square feet. You've seen pictures of it throughout this presentation. We have an exact duplicate of that literally across the hall with the same kind of closed-in offices, the same kind of open work plan. And as we get to 65 companies, we're going to have to open up the other side and start this over again and grow another version of Carlson Cowork that'll all be together. We will all meet together and go to the same lunch and learns, but it'll just be more space. So we envision doubling the size of this in the next year.
One of the things we talked about since day one is that Carlson's such a great large space that we have an opportunity to have a co-work city there, where there are pockets of potentially different industries like the arts and but it just takes a group of people to come up and say, we understand this philosophy, we're behind it, we're going to embrace it and create our own aspect of it. And then there's that cross-pollination between all the different places. So there's all kinds of, let it happen naturally, right?
Yeah.
We're actually talking to folks from the arts world that have theaters and theater education and music education and instrument education, and they're saying we have 50 companies that are all scattered all over the city that really would like to co-work from the arts perspective. Mm-hmm. We welcome everybody to come here. We think this could be a co-working capital that could be very different.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. Well, let's go ahead and run that video. If anyone else has questions, we'll take them at the end of the video, but let's take a look at what they brought here.
Being alone can be a very inefficient way to conduct business.
So sitting at home, I'm just sitting in front of my computer and not really talking to anyone. Gets a bit lonely sometimes, I guess.
When we first met to form Carlson, we really made a decided commitment to the culture first.
My motto is never stop connecting, so at Carlson, it's a chance to practice that every day.
It's a great place to share thoughts here and meet new people that actually want to know who you are as a person.
Frankly, I thought that maybe you'd get to meet some people just as a side effect of working, but that's completely not the case.
People just come up and say, hi, what's your name? I was like, what are you into? I was like, hey, people want to know me. That's awesome.
It's just been great to really just make connections, both as friendships and as business connections.
I wanted to find a role in a community where I could contribute my strengths and other people were passionate about contributing their strengths so that we could create things that were greater than we could create alone.
Really just connecting with other businesses that might need my help or I might need their help.
I think I've helped my client out because they needed a place for some people to meet, and as we're filming this interview, we have 3 people from the company here having a meeting.
The value of having an affordable location that's scalable versus going to a traditional agency.
Probably 40% of the companies here have learned how to partner and exchange money and become co-workers themselves.
Carlson in particular has taken the co-working model and built something with endless potential.
About the members and what they're doing available on that website, so please feel free to go visit. So that is the end of our webinar today. If you have additional questions, you can email them to ritalum@rit.edu, or they can be tweeted to @RIT_alumni. with the hashtag #MeRITWebinars, and we will direct your questions to Jim and his community at Carlson Cowork.
Can I say one more thing?
Absolutely.
The video here was on mute, and I just want to restate what I said about thank you to all the members who did the video.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it was a members-produced video, and I want to thank everybody. Give a shout-out to everyone. And I will say it again, Jim, you look amazing.
Yeah. So all of today's participants will receive an email from us in the next few days with a link to today's webinar recording. Many thanks to our presenters for sharing their knowledge and experience with us today, and thank you to all of our listeners for joining us for today's webinar. Our next webinar is scheduled for Wednesday, March 23rd. I'm sorry, do we have one on the 9th? Yes, no, I'm sorry, Wednesday, March 23rd. We welcome back Robert Constantine, the Director of Planned Giving at Rochester Institute of Technology, who will present wills, trusts, and other essential planning tools. On behalf of RIT's Alumni Relations Office, it is our pleasure to present the Me RIT webinar series.